Well, hello, boys and girls. Hi, I am my Pearl of Wisdom, and you're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom. Coming to you live from the facility of my bathroom. Why? Because, well, my original intention for this was to watch copious amounts of hockey, scratch myself, and nap for my life. And then life said, oh no, you must work and take care of your family and shit like that. And I rejected it for a inordinate amount of time. Probably an unhealthy amount of time, I suppose. So anyways, I'm back to the living, I guess you would say. And I'm having to take care of my family and such. So that leads me to work and do what people do. And gives me very little time. So I do these here now. You don't need to hear this though, do you? No. What you want to hear is pearls of wisdom. But you're going to change this. You're going to change this little dilemma that I have by subscribing and watching copious amounts of these videos so that I may become a YouTube sensation and be able to go back to the original desires that I had. Now I'm going to pass pearls of wisdom near your lap area, so be ready. Get ready now. Here we go. Minnesota Wild. Minnesota Wild are the new general manager because the previous general manager, Paul Fenton, appears to have been a prick. That's what it seems to be. The professional wording wasn't quite as such, but there was many not getting along with people, not having a strong relationship with the staff and players. That is professional wording generally for a prick. So, Mr. Fenton, Mr. Fenton probably has some character workshops in his near future, and I wish you well on that, sir. But for now, we have Bill Guerin now has taken over. Bill Guerin comes in, goes in the seat, looks at his roster, and goes, oh, we have no second-line center. Great. So how are we going to solve that problem? Well, first, we're going to hope that Luke Cunnin and Eck, who are Eck has been stewing for quite a long time. I think it's becoming quite apparent that second-line center is not in his future. Luke Cunnin's about 21, 22. They sent him down to the minors when they were hoping that he would be able to fill at least a center role, and it's not turning out to be the case. So what do? He's basically, Bill Guerin has actually come out flat out in public now, or in the media, and said that he wants to get a second line center. So he's basically putting himself in a situation where he's saying, I'm willing to pay a premium right now. Because if you're coming out in public like that, all the other general managers are going, wow, okay, this could be some prime return from this fellow. There's two, I scoured the rosters to see where they might find this second line center. As he stated himself, this is not an easy find. And yes, I would say so. You see the return that Duchesne got, even when it was only going to be 1 year. He's a possible number one center. And I imagine if they could find a number one center, they would be interested. However, I didn't see any out there that are available, especially this time of year. The only two players I really could come up with, and right down on the bottom in the comment section, if you come up with other centers that might suffice in this area, but were Brandon Sutter in Vancouver and Johnson in Tampa Bay. Johnson and Sutter, and there's two different reasons for both, and I think both would demand different returns. Johnson is basically now, he can play wing though, that's the thing. Johnson can play wing, he can play center. He's actually valuable still to Tampa Bay. However, signing point has put them back into cap hell again. And their defense for next year is looking suspect as far as signing Sergachev and so on and so forth like that. They're probably going to have to make some room somewhere. Johnson seems to be the logical person to choose out of everything that they have. They have Sorelli coming up. Of course, they have Stamkos and Point. I mean, they're strong up the middle, and Cirelli would be much cheaper. The thing is that Johnson has been kind of in a trade rumor scenario before, and they've made it fairly clear that they really don't want to lose him. He apparently has huge intangibles in the room. There's a great fear that he creates an energy, and if you ever played hockey, there's a lot of validity to this. There are players that are just somehow integral. Just the way they treat people, the way energy they bring to the room, the calming effect they have on people. It's an intangible skill that you don't see on the score sheet, but is extremely valuable. And apparently Johnson has this. It's in my mind more likely that they would be able to go and remove a winger possibly, like a Palat. However, let's say that they come to the conclusion that Johnson might be the one. What would Minnesota have to give up for this? Now, Tampa Bay's not going to want any money in return, so they're not going to be looking, even though they probably have depth on the wing. It's not likely that they're going to take a player that with salary back. So what we have is a issue where you're going to take prospects and so on and so forth like that. The Ek and Cunnin were supposed to be. I think what happened was Guerin was like crossing his fingers that Ek and Cunnin would be able to show that they could take that second line center role. Especially Cunnin. Ek, I think they've kind of come to the conclusion that he's probably not going to be a second line center anymore. He's more of a third line. He's got to that age where it's starting to be questionable. Cunnin is 21, 22. They're thinking maybe that he could pull that off, but they sent them both down to the minors. I'm thinking that it's going to cost to get Johnson, who is signed till 2024 for $5 million. Minnesota does have the cap room for this. I'm thinking it's going to take at least Ek, a second round pick, and possibly a prospect. That sounds pretty steep, but if you look at what St. Louis got for Falk, who's kind of in this, didn't have any term, and they gave a huge salary. I know he's not a center, but he's that kind of value regardless of position. This is assuming Tampa Bay does see something in Ek. It may even cost you Cunnin. As far as Brandon Sutter is concerned, he would be sort of like a if I have to type thing. He's a filler guy. He's a guy who's strong in the offensive zone, not very strong in the defensive zone. However, because the market is the way it is, and this is the problem with Minnesota right now, since there's really only two guys maybe available, you're going to have to pay a premium for either. You may be able to trade a defenseman with term and with salary to Vancouver to get Sutter, defenseman, a winger, with term to get Sutter. That is the good thing there. You would be able to go salary for salary, and then through the year you'd have the cap room to be able to fill up maybe another position in your lineup. The problem is the Sutter is probably overpriced. I think he's at $4.5 million or something like that for what he really is. He's fairly one-dimensional, and he has term on his contract. It's a risky take. If it only cost me a second rounder and a decent prospect for Johnson at this point, and I really need that second line center, I think I would do that. I think I would. That's my full 42%, boys and girls. That's all I have to give. Have a great day, and lots of love to you.